Employers, what jobs are you finding to be impossible to fill? Story 1. Government cybersecurity jobs. They want to hire hackers, but not if they've ever smoked pot. They want to hire highly paid professionals, but pay them junk with junk benefits. I think the FBI also makes them travel for months of unrelated training and pass physical fitness tests. The U.S. Air Force just finished training 130 or so airmen for roles in cybersecurity, then retained 0 of them in that role. I don't think they quit. They took other assignments that paid more or had better futures. I was offered a civilian job in that role there, but they offered me $12,000 to $15,000 less than I was currently making as a contractor for the U.S. Air Force and 2 weeks less vacation. When I tried negotiating, they refused to move even 1 penny and said if I turned it down, they would give the job to the next person. So I said no. Then they came back and said I better take the job or I would be blackballed from any other job at Kelly Lackland Air Force Base. They also tried to say the huge cut in vacation wasn't bad because they got a day off every time a former president dies, and then made a list of living presidents and their age. I kept the list because I knew nobody would believe this story, and this is the abridged version of the insanity I saw when applying there. I said no again. Shortly after that, the contracting company that was employing me at Kelly Lackland was apparently told to let me go, so I was fired on my day off. A year later, I learned that the position was still open. There was nobody in line behind me who wanted the job, and I was the 3rd person in a row to turn it down because of the low salary. That's kind of scary, really. They're really trying to hold a monopoly in these types of security jobs. It doesn't seem like it's working all that well. You would think with all the money America puts into national defense, the pay for a cybersecurity job would be much better, or at least competitive. I hope this person managed to find another job elsewhere. Story 2. The company I work for is hemorrhaging employees. We caption phone calls for people who have lost their hearing. It requires 2 weeks of training. Honestly, it should be 3. And it's a skill that doesn't come easy, but nearly everyone is capable of picking it up. We sit in cubicles and don't interact with anyone. Just listen and caption. They'll take basically anyone over 28. It was a good job when I started a few years ago. The times between calls were enough to study or browse the internet. The pay was pretty fair. Now, the idle times have fallen dramatically and the pay hasn't changed at all. Meanwhile, similar call center jobs are paying more just to read from a script. People quickly get burnt out and quit. The department in charge of scheduling is a mess. It's mismanaged to heck, and the employees there are even more overworked than the captioners. Interactions with them can be shady as heck, and they're known to go back on their word about time off and schedule changes. They did an employee morale survey just yesterday, and I tore them apart. My sister worked here too for over a year and quit today after being very honest in her own survey. As a night shift employee, my pay is higher and my workload is less, so I'm still doing okay, and I actually like my job. But the day shift is a joke, and they have to change real quickly if they want to continue. As it is, they completely deserve to be struggling like this. Why is 28 the magic age number where they'll accept anyone? Do they think people at that age can be locked into a career or something? And again, are they aware of the job competition from similar jobs? I don't think they hold the stranglehold on the market they think they do. Either that or they don't plan to be in business that long. Either way, it doesn't sound very viable long term. Story 3. One big problem, and I see it echoed in this thread, is that employers don't want to train. Companies just don't want to invest in their workers anymore. They only want to hire experienced workers. They don't want to apprentice. And if they do, they don't want to pay for it. They expect colleges to do all of this for them. What I've found is that college can't fulfill this role, even though colleges sell themselves as if they can. College can only teach you basic, hard, and maybe some soft skills that can maybe get one's foot in the door. If employers want good employees that will stick around, employers need to be willing to train and pay employees well, even in training, and not dole out crazy or unrealistic workloads or an otherwise toxic environment. Training will make them good, specific to your industry and company, and the pay and positive work environment will help them stay. That's a big one. I've seen companies turn good people away because they lacked some skill they could pick up in 3 weeks. The expectation, especially for those 30 plus, is that they have to be experts in all the tools the company uses. I have a theory about this. I think companies don't want to train anybody because they think that once this person is trained in that field or job, the employee will then just turn around and start looking for other work elsewhere. I can see how a company would feel betrayed and feel like they're wasting resources in that respect, but they could easily solve that by being the kind of company people want to stay at. And what is this gap between college and work in training? Why aren't colleges training for these jobs? Story 4. I'm not an employer, but I work in the ag industry, mostly in packing facilities as an inspector. They never have enough labor. They're always hiring, no matter who you are. They don't drug test, and it's dang near impossible to get fired unless you frick up really bad. Like like getting in a physical confrontation with a supervisor. And even then, the same people will be back next year. I worked in a vegetable cannery for 2 summers. If you don't mind monotony and being alone with your thoughts for 8 hours, it's pretty nice work with reliable hours. You meet quite a colorful group of characters doing factory work. The only person I know who got fired stole a 50-pound bucket of strawberries and was told to never come back. Story 5. Yeah, tell most of these jobs you're a felon and watch them glaze over. Doesn't matter how back on track your life is. Sometimes it doesn't matter how long it's been. I'm employed by a small business simply because no one else wanted me. The upside? My employer has me on his side through and through. There's something to be said for a guy that hears me out, doesn't judge, and offers me a job. Does it pay the best? No. However, it pays enough to help me keep building my life. It's flexible and doesn't demand the frickin' universe out of me while paying jack junk. Looking at you, food service. Do you want good candidates? Sometimes, just maybe, good people have skeletons. Story 6. Basic retail person for a specialty chocolate shop. I am just baffled at how hard it is to get someone for this job. We pay more than most retail jobs in the area. It's the easiest retail job I've ever worked. Customers are 90% nice because who gets crabby about chocolate? We'll teach you everything. You get to dip things in chocolate and make fudge and take home mistakes. We give you free chocolate. I can't even get people in to interview. Out of the 20 calls I made last week, been trying to hire since March, 5 were wrong or out of order numbers, 10 were voicemails that never called back, and 5 were interviews that just never showed up. It's been months of this. What the frick? This person has to try and recruit for this job, and people don't want it? Does he even mention the pay rate if it's better than retail? Does this person even mention this when he's making these calls? Maybe people watched Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory too many times and think all chocolate shops are a trap. Story 7. EMTs and paramedics. I've been in a position to hire them and can't get anyone, and I know exactly why. Hours. Standard week for EMS is 60 to 100 hours. Many EMTs and medics work 24-plus hour shifts. Pay? Pay is crap. I have over a decade of experience. I have ACLS, PALS, PHTLS, ITLS, ATLS, and about a ton more, and I can hardly score more than 15 an hour here. Injury? The work is backbreaking. Lifting people that are 500 plus and the 90-pound cot is a great way to get a hernia. 500-pound person you had to drag out of a bathroom. Psychological issues are very common. The list goes on. No surprise, people avoid EMS like the plague. Story 8. Programmers for the industrial environment. It's incredibly hard finding PLCs and robotics programmers that want to get their hands dirty working with bigger, complex industrial machinery. It seems counterintuitive, but the problem is most kids just want to do desk programming or handheld electronics, apps for phones or tablets, Windows or Mac, working on PCs or the like, drones, toys, etc. I'm not saying pure software programming isn't satisfying, but seeing machines moving that weigh 10 tons and are the size of rooms because of something you programmed is unbeatable. Story 9. Not an employer, but now my former job has had a hard time trying to hire a replacement after quitting nearly 5 months ago. Was a retail restocker, but that position eventually required working 2 early shipment receiving shifts, compiling the store's weekly shipment order, and translating on a regular basis. It doesn't help at all that this position was more or less the lowest paying position at the store used to work at. Trying to find another college graduate that was willing to do all of that for low pay is dang near impossible. Why is the most demanding job the lowest paid? I get that a starting position isn't typically the cushiest and you have to work your way up, but too often employers want someone who will stick around in crappy positions like this forever. Do they not get that people want to improve themselves and grow? And why does this job sound like it doesn't require a college degree but still demands one? Story 10. Despite what employers will say, all jobs are fillable if you pay enough money. There was a CEO a few years ago who complained that they could not hire welders, and turns out they were offering $20 an hour. I'm a believer that in this globalized world with massive availability of education, there's no such thing as a shortage of workers. It's just that the pay isn't enough for the job conditions. Sometimes wage expectations go up, and businesses need to deal with that, or they won't be able to operate. Story 11. The place I work can't frickin' retain good employees because they work us to death. I make over $50K a year in construction, and these buttholes work us to the bone. They've been in the business, it's a franchise, for over 30 years, and I think they have 3 people that have been here longer than 5 years. In the 2 years I've worked there, they've gone through dang near 10 or 12 people on my side of the job, and probably 6 people in the office. My buddy is putting in his 2 weeks tomorrow. I freaking hate it here. I've reached the point where I just don't want to do junk for this company, because it's all taken on their end. Anyways, construction. They train, still can't retain employees. Please like like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of this video and have a wonderful day. Story 12. 10 plus years a headhunter here. If the job pays less than $15 an hour, it will be hard to find talent that will accept at that pay rate and not have red flags like large unexplained gaps in employment, major spelling errors on resumes and applications, or even cursing in the interview with me. Seriously, not appropriate for any industry. Once you can pay about $35K plus, the talent pool starts to open up significantly, and you can start seeing more stable work history, good communication skills, and brick-and-mortar college degrees. Yes, a fresh perspective here. Do you think employers take living conditions where they are into consideration when they set their pay, or do they just set them according to their own needs? I think part of setting payments should include a study about the living conditions in the area and what it would cost a person to live there. Research what a living wage would actually be, and not just say your wage is a living wage. Story 13. If you can't find someone to fill a position, it means the job is junk, the working conditions are junk, the hours are junk, the pay is junk, the system is junk, you are junk. It's a warning sign when you find that Company X is putting out recruitment ads every month to compensate for those that left. Story 14. Construction manager here. The demand for construction is here, but the workers left during the recession and don't want to come back to repeat history. I'm in this boat. Worked for 12 years as a carpenter. Loved it. Work fell off in 2009. Held on as long as I could. Lost my business and house. Gained 2 kids. Went back to school in 2011 to support the family. Now I work in IT. No way I'm giving up this salary and benefits. I miss construction so badly though. Story 15. My former landlady works in HR for a recruiting firm. She found on multiple occasions that she had to hire people whose interviews were train wrecks and had huge red flags, large gaps in work history, talking like 6 to 10-year-olds, as well as one that had a major problem with a former employer, all because they were fluently bilingual in English and French. They were mainly call center type jobs, sales development type things. Not the funnest work, but if you speak French and you need a job, you can find one in Southern Ontario. Okay, this one I can sympathize with the company. Finding specialized skilled workers is difficult, but why are they looking for work in Ontario? Isn't Quebec predominantly the French-speaking population of Canada? Why isn't this company based there? And if the potential hires speak English like they're 6 to 10 years old, won't their French-speaking skills be that or less? What good is that? Story 16. People work in nursing homes. PT, OT, kitchen, nursing. Big portion is nursing staff. I don't know if it's just the company that's having issues. 2 of our facilities are having staffing issues, but we're constantly understaffed and getting overworked to the point where more people are leaving because they're overworked. Management keeps saying no one is applying, but I don't think they're offering people enough to stay or want to work there. Story 17. The company I work for has been trying to fill a dispatcher position for over a year and a half now. Part-time, evening shift. They're not offering competitive pay, and everyone is suffering for it. Trying to get someone for $1 over minimum wage for a job that should start a good $5 to $7 an hour more is painful to watch. They're either incompetent or realize really quickly what the job entails and book it out of there. Story 18. Teaching jobs. At my school, we've had multiple teachers quit throughout the year and could never replace them, so we just replaced the class. One of our foreign language teachers quit, so they just forced all the students to take French instead, with every class having at least 35 students. I just looked a few minutes ago and we still have 10 plus positions open for the next school year, which starts in 3 weeks. I'm pretty sure teachers are the most underappreciated and underpaid the most in America than any other country. The part of this story about teachers quitting is not surprising. It's the part where they force the students to take a different class. What if they don't want to learn French? What if the students' plans don't involve French? How is that going to prepare them for the future? Story 19. Not an employer, but accountants. More specifically, CPAs. Sure, there's a lot of us, but the companies I've worked for all have trouble filling open positions. Most use recruiters who charge a month of the position's salary if the person gets hired. Basically, it's a case of demand being much higher than supply. That's probably why my accounting graduating class had a 99% job placement before graduation. Story 20. They call me unicorns for a reason, but people with both programming plus design skills. They're rare and few between, but it's pretty much an instant hire if you have both. They really help bridge the gap between dev-design teams and are almost always in demand. People laughed when I double majored in computer science and fine art, but it opened a lot of doors. Story 21. I do bar and restaurant consultation, and I'm amazed at how underqualified the majority of bartenders I interview are. It's not a thing that many people think is hard, but to do it well, it actually is. Basic knowledge of cocktails is an absolute requirement, but I can't tell you how many people have no idea what goes in an old-fashioned, less so that whiskey is a category, not an alternative to Maker's Mark. I think this is one of those it looks so easy on the outside type of jobs. I've lived in areas where there are bartending schools, so this area must not have many training places like that around. Heck, you might even be able to pick up some skills looking for free YouTube videos on the subject. You'd have to practice mixing drinks yourself, but it doesn't seem like training resources for bartenders are hard to come by. Story 22. I need someone with the wisdom of a 50-year-old, the experience of a 40-year-old, the drive of a 30-year-old, and the pay scale of a 20-year-old. Also, 25 years experience for an entry-level position that will require 17 obscure certificates, a security clearance that we will not sponsor, and a lie detector test. Also, you must cover the lie detector test fee. Story 23. Not an employer, but my hospital has a hard time finding nursing assistants. Who knew it would be hard to find people willing to wipe butts for not much pay? I just looked up wages for a CNA. It's worse than a minimum wage job that also requires college education in some instances. That is a beyond absurd job prospect. Story 24. Freaking hiring a front desk rep at a hotel. I interviewed for a couple of those, one of which was for a night auditor. What irritates the hell out of me is that I was hired, but then got called the next day and corporate didn't like that I had no accounting experience and rescinded the job offer. I was ticked. Again, this goes back to the problem of training. I'm sure they would have been able to retain and keep this person if they were willing to kick in for a little training. The way this guy talks, it sounds like he had previous experience too. Forget no one wants to work. It's now no one wants to train. Story 25. My valet company is having an incredibly hard time filling supervisor positions at locations that are slow, and you don't do anything for 12 hours, 15 per hour. Though part of the reason why it's hard is because they want these people to be educated. People get educated so they don't have to work as a valet super for $15 an hour. Story 26. Based on the job ads I've seen, I think they're having a little trouble filling the entry-level 3 to 5 years experience jobs. No, I'm not just playing off the meme. These postings were the bane of my existence when I was job hunting. Story 27. Haven't seen web developers, programmers, software engineers yet. Lots of good coders out there, but open seats want client-facing, full-stack, MVC, Angular, Sitefinity, MongoDB, Swift, and a glittery unicorn, key 627 points 4 hours ago. 5,000 years experience in each. I think many people think of programming in the same way people think of speaking different languages. Knowing Spanish doesn't really help you if the job requires French. Programming itself is a skill, and the language is merely a means to an end. I realize it's not that easy to always pick up a new language, but many employers don't see the big skill picture of those they interview. Story 28. Truck drivers. Most of the people on the road are in their 50s and 60s. They're starting to retire or die. It's even hard to find contract drivers to help on busy delivery days. It's mainly because the hours are long, the trips are long, and it's a pretty dangerous job. Story 29. Employers here, the simple solution to finding people to fill jobs is to pay better. I do pay better, and amazingly, I have no trouble getting people to work. I turn people away. That said, the work ranges from extremely simple to needing a solid 6 to 8 weeks of intensive training. Story 30. The strip mall down the street from my work is having trouble hiring security guards who don't sell pharmaceuticals. I would like to be a security guard. Great, but you can't sell pharmaceuticals. Really? That's the only requirement now? And if you have trouble finding people that don't sell pharmaceuticals, maybe you should be paying more. Then you could give them a reason to not sell pharmaceuticals in the first place. Maybe? Story 31. At my hotel, housekeeping. No one wants to clean up after the nastiest animals on the planet. Plenty of hours and reliable work to be had, but no one wants to do it. They should be paid more, I guess. Or people could just be less disgusting. Story 32. Base level security officer. You need a clean record to be over 18 and a GED or high school diploma or to be in high school. Paying more than minimum wage for a job that requires less work than most minimum wage jobs. Story 33. Anybody want to be a school bus driver? Good. Do you have a valid California driver's license? Any DUIs? Criminal record? Oh, okay, never mind. Literally anyone, please. Yeah, I get how a school bus driver can't just be any person off the street with a driver's license. You're driving kids after after all. If you're having trouble finding candidates, again, maybe raise the pay. And maybe do a deeper background check and take mitigating circumstances into account and not just ban everyone with a ding on their driving record. Story 34. Decent writers. I have a content marketing business, and finding a writer who actually knows how to write for digital and print and to various audiences is dang near impossible. Story 35. Jobs are only unfillable at the ridiculously low wages being offered. Offer more, get more applicants. That's how capitalism works. Story 36. Production line worker. No education needed. Not dangerous. Can listen to music while you work. 9 to 5, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Wait, is this a complaint? This just looks like a Craigslist listing. What kind of production work? Where? What's the pay? Many questions about this one. Story 37. I've noticed that restaurants have a tough time getting servers and cooks when the food is getting bad at mid-range restaurants and customer service is horrible. Story 38. In New Zealand, we have a huge shortage of competent, qualified carpenters and heavy truck drivers. Funny that it's the older types of trades. It's like they've fallen out of fashion. Story 39. Nurses. Huge supply and demand problem here in the UK. I've also heard there's a huge shortage of teachers in the UK too. It seems the ones we rely on the most for important jobs get the junkiest deal in compensation. Nurses even more than teachers, especially in emergency room situations. Plus the insane hours. It's a big shame. Story 40. Tenors who can sight read and sing in tune for paid positions in professional vocal ensembles. Story 41. In this video, jobs that pay like junk surprisingly don't have a lot of people applying for them. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.